We're back with Stacy Washington, also known as Stacy on the right. So, while your article about the NRA national meetings in St. Louis Post-Dispatch was positive, some of the coverage hasn't been, and some of it was focused. Well, all of it was focused on race. You would have almost forgot there were actually guns there. So, you have Mother Jones, Atlanta Journal, all of them wrote articles that was heavily slanted with respect to the issue of race, especially one from Politico, which basically went on this diatribe about how the NRA's attempted outreach to reach minority groups was basically failing. So what are your inherent thoughts on the way that a lot of the media on the other side handled the NRA annual convention?
Well, first off, there were more Black people there than were reported in these three pieces. I read them. And we know this, Colion, because I was there, and I would have spoken to any, you just turn your camera on and see if I don't look over there like, you need me? Because I'm ready. I'm ready to talk to you. They didn't request a conversation with me. Now, I had on one of my Stacy on the Right show. This shirt is an assault shirt and has a little gun on it. So maybe they didn't want to talk to me if they knew I was in the bag. But I got to say, I saw lots of Black people there. I saw industry professionals there who were Black working the booths. And then I saw lots of people walking around. It's 80,000 people who were there. So are you saying to me that they took a percentage-wise, like, how did they do it? I'm telling you, when I was crushed up with the people trying to leave the NRA ILA, the leadership forum where President Trump spoke, and after he spoke, a bunch of us got up and tried to leave, and it was like 3,000 people crammed around this door trying to get up an escalator. You know what I wasn't counting? How many Black people were there. I was just thinking, this thing, like, how do I get through here? I don't even have a VIP thing. How do I get out of here before all these people? It was a fantastic event. 15 acres of guns. I learned so much. Like, I stopped at one vendor and we talked about this MK4 that he had, what type of ammunition it took. And then we talked about another firearm he had around the corner that had an 8-inch barrel and how much harder it is to purchase that gun than the full length barrel of 16 inches because of old laws that are holdovers from back when the mob was in operation and they used to saw off shotguns. So we're talking about that, and I'm learning. I just didn't have time to take a snapshot and add all the snapshots together and piece them together and print them out and see how many Black people were there. On the other hand, the information, the booths themselves, the things that you could experience, the training sessions, they had airsoft that you could shoot, like air guns in this one room. There was so much information available. It just shows you where the left is. Instead of talking about all the opportunities that were there to learn about firearms, to learn about the industry, to learn about gun ownership, they want to focus on how many Blacks were there and which Blacks were there if they felt like other Blacks were there.
Here's the irony behind the way they covered this event and the way that Politico wrote this article. They wrote the article from the perspective that the NRA was now trying to make attempts to reach out to Black people because they see them as a financial benefit, because they've essentially exhausted the white population of people, and therefore they want to sell more guns, and therefore they want to get more Black people included so that they can buy more guns. When in reality, Politico was writing an article from the perspective of saying, you know what, we don't like the fact that more Black people are getting involved with guns. That's essentially what you're saying underneath the topical aspect of the article. We don't like the fact that more Black people are getting involved with firearms. So we're going to create a narrative that dissuades Black people from getting involved in firearms because we don't like that aspect. Because I was at the show, you were at the show, and by and large, there were more. I hate saying this because I feel like I'm just falling into the very narrative that they're trying to have that I feel is unnecessary. But there were more Black people at this event than I've ever seen before. Period. Yeah. And sure, it was something that I liked and it was something that I enjoyed, but I don't think it has anything to do with, I think it had everything to do with the fact that I think that more people are now empowered to be outwardly expressive about the passion they have for firearms. What they undermine is the number of people who are Black or minority who express a passion for firearms and to get assaulted verbally or emotionally about the fact that they are passionate about firearms the way that they are. The NRA is not an organization that has a requirement or a test that determines whether or not you get to be a part of the organization. It is an open organization, but the way they write the article, it makes it seem as if the NRA stops people at the door, asks them a series of questions, and then looks at their color and says, okay, you're okay to come in, you're okay to come in, you're not okay to come in. And then writes the story as if to say, the NRA is doing everything in their power not to allow black people in.
Yeah, but who does that? Who does that, Colion?
The other side.
Who does that?
The other side.
The left?
Yeah.
Who told the women at the Women's March in January, if you're pro-life, you can't march with us? The leftists. Who tells me all the time? My number one email out of all the emails that I get is, you're not really black. You hate yourself. Just because I'm on the right. The leftists project a lot. And this is what we're seeing. That piece, so I'm reading through it and thinking, so this is all you got out of it?
Yeah.
My gosh, it was days long, and there were all presentations. That's all you got? You know, I felt like a teacher. Have you ever been in class with somebody and you guys are all absorbing the information, and then one person raises their hand and says, well, blah, blah, blah. The teacher's like, that's what you got out of this? That's what you got? And they get indignant because they've been teaching their butts off. That's what this weekend was like. There's so much just... I can't even begin to tell you how friendly everybody was, and there was so much good food, and then there were the concerts. I couldn't even go to everything. And you know, I'm tall, I walk fast, I talk fast. I was trying to get everywhere. I was like running from place to place, and I still couldn't get to everything. There was so much to do. I encourage you, and I say this from the bottom of my heart, if you believe that the NRA is based on racism, prove it. Go to one of their events. Go to anyone who says they're an NRA instructor or the classes that they give, they're local, they're all over the country. Just go there and attend the event and see if you don't come away thinking, wow, this is just a bunch of regular Joes who happen to like firearms. That's what I felt. I kept bumping into people and they were just so nice. Everybody was just, I didn't meet one jackhole, not one.
Here's the thing about this conversation that's in the way that they have it. It's a constant moving of the goalpost. I noticed it immediately once I started getting involved in the political components of the firearm debate. The way I've seen it, it starts like this. It says, well, the NRA doesn't do anything to reach out to the black community or any minority groups.
Yep.
Then when they do see elements of that happening, they say, oh, the NRA is not allowed or is welcome here. You can't blame someone for not doing anything to reach out, and then when it's done, do everything in your power to block it from happening. And that it's just intellectually dishonest. And I see it over and over and over again. But yet, and still, when you listen to, when you hear and you read the articles that are written about these events, the way that they're written, you realize the only thing they are saying is there is a ton of white people at these events. You'll never hear anything that says, oh, this individual was at this event who was a minority and experienced racism, or this person was turned away because they were black, or this person was treated differently because they were black. All you hear is there were a lot of white people here. And the last I checked, about 60 to 60% of the population in America is white. I think that kind of goes without saying. There are going to be a lot of white people at an NRA convention. Or any convention for that matter. Exactly. And so that's, and the thing about it is, it's the problem, and the funny thing is these pieces are done intentionally because they are covert forms of advocacy in the alternative. What they're designed to do is to speak to a group of people who haven't gone out of their way to actually see for themselves. So they paint this malicious picture, and then inherently you internalize that and say, well, I don't want any parts of that. So next time the NRA comes to my town, I'm not going. And then you get what you have termed, you haven't termed it, but I read the article and you said it yourself, confirmation bias, where I'm going to go back and read about what that same media outlet wrote about this event, and then I'm going to confirm what I believe from the last time I read a piece that they wrote about the event, which basically said the NRA is racist because there's a bunch of white people at the event.
And so all the black people who are walking around, you don't see them because your confirmation bias says there are no blacks here. And even if you see some, you say, well, that's not very many blacks. I only saw 10.
When you do see blacks, you dismiss it by calling it tokenism.
Right.
And then you can honestly, and considering, like I said, there are 60%, just about 60% of the world, or at least the country, are essentially white. You can scream tokenism until you're blue, and you can continue it no matter how many black people you inevitably end up seeing. You can scream tokenism.
You can.
So from that perspective, it's kind of like there is no incentive, there's no actual desire to have the conversation honestly. There isn't. And so, and I get frustrated about it because as many times as I try to have the conversation honestly, even when I try to engage people like Shannon Watts, now I just troll her because when I tried to have a general conversation about the issue with her, she refused to do it. And so from that perspective, I was like, I have no use for you other than to basically entertain myself by trolling you and baiting you into calling him a misogynist. So I just get really, really frustrated because one, I'm very passionate about this topic, and as far as I know, in my experience within this organization, it's always been a gun rights for everyone, and however you want to slice it. If you don't want to own a gun, don't own a gun. You have every right to be not that bright about. No, let me stop.
Yeah, no, say it.
No,
you have
but
every right to wait for me to defend you if something jumps off. That's how I look at it. Moms demand action chicks. They're the ones with the wine boxes in their trunk and their fancy purses, and more power to you because I can afford to buy whatever I want. I just choose not to put my money in purses. Yeah. But the point is not that they're buying these purses and it's wrong. It's that these purses are status symbols for them, just like their virtue signaling support of gun control. And let's be clear, if we're in the grocery store and some lunatic pulls a gun out and I take a knee and take him out, you're then going to thank me. You're not going to be like, oh my gosh, I can't believe you used a gun to save my life. You're going to thank me and you're going to be glad I had a firearm. And that is the case every time a good guy or good girl with a gun defends these innocent bystanders. They're sheep. They need a sheepdog. You and I are the sheepdogs. You and I are the ones who are willing to stand up and defend other people that we don't know, who might very well be moms demand action flunkies. We're still willing to defend their sorry butts because we believe in protecting others. And it's actually a biblical concept. I hate to get all Bible thumpery on y'all.
No,
but the Bible says we're supposed to defend the innocent, the weak, the mentally challenged. That's in the Bible. So for those who are into gun control, they're clearly mentally deficient. I'm willing to defend them too. I'm willing to pull them back from the edge. Don't jump off that ledge. Go get yourself some mental, counseling, therapy, pills, whatever you need. I'll carry. You be the one who needs defending. But I tell you what, there have been so many times where I've had somebody who said, well, I just don't believe in gun ownership. I'm like, well, do you think that if somebody walked in here and started shooting, that you would prefer that someone shoot that person, or would you just like to be gunned down? Well, obviously, I wouldn't want to be gunned down. I'm like, so then you do kind of support concealed carry, don't you?
And I actually disagree with you in one respect, and a point that you made, in that awesome rant. I disagree with the aspect that if you are actually in a position, if you actually use your gun to save one of their lives, I don't think they would thank you. I think they would call you an anomaly. They'd call the event an anomaly, and they would say it just so happened that things worked out in favor. Because I've seen it before. What they will then do is start saying things like, "Well, I'm glad it worked out that way, but we can't use that as a basis because what if somebody else got shot because you were shooting at them and then shooting back?" I'm telling you,
oh my gosh.
I've seen it over and over.
I would just be like,
again.
shut up, just shut up. You have been saved. That's it. I'm a mom, so I'll tell you what, Colion, I'll shut somebody down in 5 seconds with that kind of drama. I would just be like, I can't talk to you right now because you're obviously overcome with emotion, gratitude, and you just don't know what to say, and so you're saying things that don't make sense. You're probably right. I'll give you that because whatever you expect them to do, they tend to go so far beyond the pale.
Because there's nothing more important than the agenda.
It's true.
It isn't, and especially when you take an agenda that is then inflated with ego, it's almost pointless to even engage. But we are out of time.
Well, thank you for having me on today.
No problem. But no, you're always welcome on the show.
I love it. I'm shilling again, but it's so good. The shilling is so good.
I mean, last I checked, shilling for a constitutional right was a good thing. But then again, what do I know? I'm black.
I'll be doing it.
But no, thank you very much, Stacy. It was an absolute pleasure speaking with you today.
Thank you.
Absolutely. When we come back, we'll talk to a gun lawyer, Michelle Byington, who I actually went to law school with. Yada, yada, yada.